Okay, we are now going to be doing Daf Ayin Vav 76 offline so we can catch up. And we're going to continue on the top of Ayin Vav from Imahu. It is 1, 2, 3, 5 lines from the top. And this is we're continuing to work out the issues about daughter and granddaughter and mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law and so on. Okay, so we have the whole series of comparisons basically about his daughters and her mother, and all of those are forbidden and get sreifa. So now the Gemara says, 1 minute. Imahu kalasu asura, fi kalas asura, and we know that his daughter-in-law, his son's wife, is forbidden to him, even after his son, even when she's no longer an Ashes Yish, even after his son, let's say, were to divorce her or something. But her daughter-in-law is not forbidden to him. So if his stepson marries a woman, that's not included. But why don't we say that since we've made everything else parallel in terms of the punishment of sreifa, that by analogy, his daughter-in-law should also be forbidden to him? I mean, her daughter-in-law, his stepdaughter-in-law, should be forbidden to him. So Amar Aisha bin Chahi, of daughter-in-law, it says she is your son's wife. Mishum Aisha bin Chatamachayvo, Viatamachayvo, Mishum Aisha bina. But the only issue is when it's your son's wife, not your stepson's wife. Rav has a different answer. So it's similar to what we said before about the issue about his grandmother. Abai goes to a pasuk. Rav does it by logic and says that the basic analogy will fail. Whether when you learn something, you take it with its context, whether you take it and then apply it in its local context, lo asya. The analogy. Let's figure this out. If you learn it with its original context, mahu kalasu asura, finami kalasa asura, the same word. For him, his daughter-in-law should be forbidden to him. So her daughter-in-law, his stepdaughter-in-law should be forbidden to him. 1 minute, umina, and then with its context. So the context here always means not just that it's forbidden, but what is the mita. So with its context, mahu biskila afinami biskila. So the same way, his daughter-in-law, the prohibition is punishable by stoning. His stepdaughter-in-law, by the analogy, should be by stoning, because that's taking it with its context. So although it's her daughter-in-law, it gets the original context of stoning. So that won't work. Why won't that work? Because Laman Damar Skila Chamura, if Skila is weightier than Sreifa, Ikla Mifrach, Malahu Shekin Imo Biskila, Tomer Bihiush Imo Bisreifa, you can't apply his prohibitions to her prohibitions. Because his prohibitions, he is Biskila, and those are weightier. And the prohibitions on her side are all Sreifa prohibitions. So therefore, you can't assume that what you take it from his side and apply it to her side. So just because his daughter-in-law is forbidden doesn't mean that her daughter-in-law will be forbidden. The ode, and in addition, Bita B'Sreifa V'Kalasa B'Skila. Anyway, there would be an inconsistency because we would say that his daughter would be B'Sreifa. That her daughter, we know for him, is Sreifa, and her daughter-in-law, according to this, would be Skila, and that doesn't make sense. That's being inconsistent. It's actually not only inconsistent; it's more weightier by the daughter-in-law. And we're assuming here that because we're assuming Skila is weightier. So the Gemara says, you know what? That wouldn't be a problem. The Gemara says, 1 minute. Well, what do you mean? I mean, the same would be true about him. His daughter is Sreifa, and his daughter-in-law is Skila. And if Skila is more Chamor, that's just the way it is, even though it doesn't make sense. So you can't ask that on this comparison. Okay, but here's what you would ask. For him, his mother is Skila, and his daughter-in-law is Skila. So all the things that are not based on daughters are by Skila when it's on his side. But here, if we apply daughter-in-law to her and keep it with the context of Skila, there's going to be an inconsistency between mother and daughter-in-law. Okay, and therefore that inconsistency means that you can't do the analogy. So there, and even if Sreifa was weightier, and so one of the earlier challenges would fall off, this challenge remains. That it wouldn't be analogous. That him, the mother, and the daughter-in-law are the same. And for her, the mother is Sreifa, and the daughter-in-law would be Skila. So that makes that not possible. That's if you say don mina umina, keep the original context. And if you take it and apply the local context, Mahu kalasu asura, afhi kalas asura. The same way for, the thing you're learning out is his daughter-in-law is forbidden, so her daughter-in-law, his stepdaughter-in-law is forbidden. So, and now uki batra, that's the minav. Uki batra, now apply the context. What's the context? Hasamhud biskila, aval hacha bisreifa. That there it came from a case by him, it was skila, but you apply the context of the wife's side of the family, as it were, and you say sreifa. Okay, so now we're not going to have an inconsistency because her mother is going to be b'streifa, her daughter is going to be b'streifa, her daughter-in-law is going to be b'streifa. But 1 minute. Like we find by the mother, right? All the cases of the wife's side of the family, mother, daughter, and now daughter-in-law will be sreifa. That's putting it in the context. So here's why that won't work. If you assume skila is weightier, that throws off the entire analogy. Because it's just things that his side is weightier because it gets skila by some of them. So you can't apply it to her side. Igla mifrach, malahu, shekin imo b'skila. Tomar, so in his side of the family, the mother is skila. Tomar b'ishima b'sreifa, but when it's her mother, it's sreifa. So therefore, clearly his side is weightier. So just because for him daughter-in-law is forbidden, it doesn't mean daughter-in-law will be forbidden when it's her daughter-in-law. Va'od, and here's another point, which is mahu chalakta bo bein bito lekalaso. For him, there's a difference. His daughter is sreifa, his daughter-in-law. So now we're actually trying to say the analogy has to maintain a difference. The difference that it was in the original case. His daughter is sreifa, his daughter-in-law is skila. So afhi, so now because we put this in its context and we gave it sreifa because the mother was sreifa, you're now losing the dissimilarity. Tachlok, you have to make a distinction bein bita lekalasa. So therefore, so even if sreifa is weightier and you don't have the first question, this second thing prevents it because it's not going to be analogous. The analogy would require a different type of a misa between the daughter and the daughter-in-law, but that you can't do because the context demands that it's the same mita. Okay, so that's basically whether Abai and Rava, they have different ways of learning it, but they learned that on his side you cannot forbid the grandmother, and on her side you cannot forbid the daughter-in-law. So now we're done with eliminating things that there are going to be cases in which it's not parallel. So now the Gemara says like this. Now we have a different question. The one thing that we did not solve from the previous daf was how do you know his daughter, when it's not his wife's daughter, is going to be forbidden? The Torah only speaks, or punishable. The Torah only speaks about his granddaughter. Okay, so let's take a look. It says like this. Where were we? Okay. Bito mianusaso, his daughter from a woman he raped. Now, what's very strange or troubling is that the Gemara describes the issue of his daughter that is not his wife's daughter as the daughter from the woman he raped. Rashi, of course, points out it also could have been a woman he seduced, right? Or just a woman that they consensually, right, didn't even require seduction. They both agreed to have this sexual relationship and have a baby out of wedlock. But for whatever reason, the Gemara distills that scenario as Bito Menusaso, his daughter from the woman he raped. I can't explain why. It's a disturbing case. Anyway, it says, how do we know? The Torah refers to his granddaughter when it's not her granddaughter, but it doesn't refer to his daughter. So the Gemara says like this. Bito mianusaso minai, Hamar Abaye. So Abaye says kavachomer. It's a kavachomer. Abat bito onesh al bito lokosh. Okay, if it's going to punish his granddaughter, it'll certainly punish his daughter. That's completely reasonable. But now the Gemara says but since when can you get punished based on a kavachomer? General principle is that no matter how obvious it is on a kavachomer it is, for punishment it needs to be explicit. So Gemara says, it's not a kavachomer, it's just implicit. Now, what makes this implicit and not a kavachomer? So Rashi says, because granddaughter is forbidden, because she comes through your daughter. So because it ultimately rests on the assumption that the daughter is forbidden. It's not just a kavachomer, granddaughter is going to be forbidden, certainly daughter. It's that the whole relationship to granddaughter is through the daughter. So therefore, it presumes that daughter is forbidden, and then this is an extension of that. So that's what Abai says. Daughter forbidden is presumed. Okay. So Rava says, I'm really Rav Yitzchak Bar Avdimi. No, we learn it from Gzeira Shafa. So it's interesting. Before Rava was doing Svara and Abai was doing Psukim, and here it's reversed. Asya hena hena, asya zima zima. So if you remember, the way we learned to apply the punishments of of her daughters to his daughters was from Behena Hena. By both of them, it says She'ira Hena. This one says Zimahi. Okay, so therefore, the same way her daughter and granddaughters are Sreifa, which we learned from Zima, his daughter and his granddaughters are Sreifa. So the same thing, that same Hena link tells us her, it says explicitly in the pasuk, a woman and her daughter, and then we also said and granddaughter. So even though on him, when it's his daughter without his wife's daughter, it only says granddaughter, but the Hena link tells us it's also daughter. Okay, so even though the psukim only told us his granddaughters, and we learned out Sreifa, we know his daughters based on the link of Hena or Kal V'chomer, Gilui Milsa. Okay, now that's where that now we have a Breita though that learns it from a different place. Tani Avud Rabbi Avin, but Rabbi Avin taught in a Breita, because the Breita says, how do we know his daughter from a woman he raped, his daughter not from his wife? How do we know that's forbidden? So the Breita says that the pasuk had to teach you ubat ish kohen ki. Now that case is she's married and she's having sex with another man. But the drasha, as Rashi pointed out, is the extra word ish. It could have said ubat kohen. So since it says ish kohen, we're actually learning it that ish ki ubat ish ki note. If the daughter of a man, bracket kohen, has forbidden sex with her father, then esavia hi mechalelas beish kisarei. So that gets you sreifa right there. So not only gets you that it's forbidden, it explicitly gets you sreifa. Okay. So Ima bas kohen he besreifa. So no, I'm sorry, slip the line. Oh yeah, no. Okay. So now the Gemara has a question. 1 minute. Ima bas kohen he besreifa vein bala besreifa. We have a principle by bas kohen. It says he ba eish tisarev. She gets sreifa, but the man who has intercourse with her gets the punishment he would have if she weren't a bas kohen, like chenek. Okay, so why not say the same thing here? That if a man has intercourse with her daughter, she gets sreifa and he gets something else, and we know that's not true. So the Gemara says, "Ima bas kohen he besreifa ein bala besreifa af pitom yanusasa." Should we say the same here? He besreifa ein bala besreifa. Maybe we should say the same if we're going to learn it from the pasuk. Amar Rabbi, Amar Kra, esavia hi mechaleles. Nisha mechaleles esavia. Yatzazo shavia mechalala. This principle, he ba'ish tisaref, that she gets reif and not him, is when she is bringing shame and desecration to her father. But in this case, where the father is violating and desecrating her, so then it will not have that split between which punishment she gets and the man gets, or here the father gets. Rava says, no, there we can split, because even if we says that the man who has intercourse with the bat kohen gets the punishment he would have as if she weren't a bat kohen, fine. The punishment he would have with a married woman as if she wasn't a bat kohen is still going to be being put to death, just a different death. So there you could say, don't treat her as a bat kohen, okay? And you could still get death to the guy, executed. But ahacha adina deman mukmisla. So here, if we don't treat her like his daughter, and he's not going to get sreifa, so what are we going to treat her like? Adina depnuya, like a single woman? So mukmisla. So then what? So then he's not going to get punished at all? That's impossible. That she should get punished and he shouldn't. So since there's no parallel to apply to him, yes, he will get sreifa. So we either learn sreifa from the Kal V'chomer of granddaughter, or applying the principle of her daughters, or from this pasuk of ubat ish kohen. Now, all of that was to tell you that they get sreifa. Now we're going to talk about how do you know it's prohibited. Okay, so the Gemara says like this: Ashara lebito mianusasa minayin. Where is it explicit that it's prohibited? It's good according to Abai v'Rava mehechat nafkaluhu onesh naskim nafkaluhu ashara. The same place you learn the punishment, you learn the prohibition. Abai, it's implicit in the biblical prohibition of granddaughter. For Rava, the link to her daughters, the same way her daughters are sreifa, while her daughters are also of prohibition, so his daughters are prohibition by the Gzerah Shava. The Tani Avud Rabbi Avin might, but according to what we taught Father Rabbi Avin, what can you say? Because that just says esavia hi mechaleles ba'eish tisaref. So it talks about sreifa, but it doesn't tell you that it's prohibited. So the Gemara says, Amar Avila, Amar Kra, Al techalelet bitcha lahaznota. Do not desecrate your daughter to make her be a whore or something, to make her fornicate. So we are learning what that means. Means don't you, the man, desecrate your daughter in an act of sex, in an act of intercourse. So that's the prohibition. So Maskif Rabbi Yaakov, Achud Rabbi Acha, Bar Yaakov, so Rabbi Yaakov asked on that. Hi, Al Tachalel Bitchala has no tala. Al Yudasa, what are you telling me? It's coming to prohibit a man having intercourse with his daughter? Hami Bayale Tanya, like we taught in the Brisa. We need it for that. For what we teach in the Brisa. Al Tachalel Bitchala has no tala. Yachol Bekoin Hamesias Pito the Levi Yisrael Kasim Daber. Maybe it just means, since this whole thing about daughter anyway is emphasized with the Kohen, it means a Kohen shouldn't marry his daughter off to a Levi or Yisrael. That's a type of being mechalala, making her chol, as Rashi says, connecting her to a non-Kohen family, not allowing her to eat truba. Talmud Lomar lahaz nota. It's not just about making her chol, it's about doing it through a form of forbidden sex. So it has to be a form of fornication or forbidden sex. So what would be that case? What is the pasuk talking about? So this is probably pshat of the psukim. Do not give over your daughter in a non-marital context. So that's the case, and that's the pshat, not this case of a man having intercourse with his daughter. I'm going to get back to that in a minute, but let's just finish this thought about it being a basis for forbidden intercourse for a man and his daughter. So the Gemara says, where was he? No, im kain lemakra al tachel. Don't use the double lamed. Just say do not violate. My al techalel. What's the double lamed? Shema minatarti. Two forms of chulin. One by giving over his daughter to a man in a non-marital context, and the other is a father and his daughter. So that's what we're learning. If the prohibition is based on ubarish kohen, the punishment, then the prohibition comes from al techalel pitchala haznota. Now, within this issue of giving over a daughter for a non-marital context, it's a really interesting question. Does it mean like a committed relationship, a one-time act, or does it mean that a person is basically, pimping his daughter? A man is basically selling, his daughter, having people pay him so that, so his daughter has sex with random people. So that is a very important question and gets into a larger issue of the whole question of the halacha and the Torah's attitude towards sex outside the context of marriage. Is any sex outside the context of marriage considered to be zinus? Okay, and there's a major debate of the Rishonim whether this idea al techala pitchala haznota is talking about any type of sex outside of marriage, even a committed relationship or something, or is it talking about particularly if it's like casual or any man, or it's hiring out the daughter and so on. Okay, we're going to continue seeing that theme in a minute, because now the Gemara says we're saying that the chalel is a double lamed, a double language, so that it's different for Abaye and Rava. Again, so it's a double thing. It could tell you daughter, and it could tell you this idea of moser spito. But if you think daughter is forbidden based on what we learned before, implicitly in granddaughter or learned out from her daughters, so what do you do with the double lamed? In addition to the prohibition of a man, giving over his daughter, this nus, what else is prohibited in this pasuk? So that's what the Gemara is going to ask. Rabbi v'Rava, hi al techalel spitchala no samai avidle. What do they do with it if it's a double prohibition? So Amar Rav Mani zeh meisias spito lezakein. So this is somebody who marries his daughter off to an elderly man. It does not just mean that it's not in the context of procreation. That's not the point. The point is that it's a man who cannot, satisfy her sexual needs. Maybe he can't have sex at all, or certainly can't satisfy her, and it's just asking for trouble. And therefore, that is a type of a marriage that it is essentially going to be znus. It's going to cause her to stray, and that's real znus. That's adultery. Okay, and that would be in that in that category. Rabbi Akiva Omer, Zeh meshaheh bito bogeret. It's a man who waits with his daughter who, once she's of age, and she's now bogeret, right? So she's now sort of sexually mature. She's all of 12 and a half. But again, normally the assumption is that she'd be married off before that age as a katan or as a nara. And now he wants her to remain around the house. Why does he want her to remain in the house? We'll see in a minute. Maybe he wants her to continue to work for him. He does his wife. Maybe he doesn't have a wife or whatever. He needs her to help raise the kids or to cook the food. Or maybe he's trying to get a higher dowry. That's the way the Maharisha reads it. We'll see why in a minute. For whatever reason, he's leaving her around. But she's now sexually mature. And now she is going to be maybe tempted sexually and actually have sex outside of marriage. So this, by the way, I should say, certainly suggests that it's not, limited to the case of like prostitution. Again, maybe it doesn't mean a context of a committed relationship. It's somewhere between those two. Casually she'll be tempted. But anyway, that is znus outside of the context of marriage. And if you're setting that up, a situation that can have that, you're just asking for trouble. That's the prohibition of al tachalet pitchala haznota. Amar Rav Kahana, Mishum Rabbi Akiva, Ein lecha. Russia Arum, you have no poor person in Israel except for the sly evil person. How these combine, we'll see in a minute. V'amesi bito bogeret, and the man that waits to marry off his daughter till she is, even while she's now bogeret, she's sexually mature, he still hasn't married her off. Hameshaheh, excuse me, not hamesi. So Gemara says, Atu hameshaheh bita bogeres lav Rasha Arum. That isn't Rasha Arum. What does it mean by Rasha Arum? It means that he is like, he's a Rasha because he's basically causing his daughter to be tempted sexually, but it's Arum because he's sly about it. He's doing it for some ulterior motive, or maybe he's even claiming, the way the Marsha says, as I said before, he's claiming, no, I'm doing it for a good reason. I'm doing it because I want her to get a big dowry, even though he's really doing it just so that she can support him. Okay, so that's the case of Rasha Arum. So what do you mean by calling these different cases? So Amar Rabbi, so Rabbi says really it was all one thing. Amar Rabbi, this is what it means. Ezu ani Rasha Arum, who is a poor person who is being a Rasha and being Arum about it. He's leaving over his daughter. He's not marrying off his daughter, even though she's a Bulgarian. So because he's an ani, he needs extra help in the house. He can't hire a servant or something. And he's in Russia because he's tempting her sexually, exposing her to temptation. And he's Arum because he claims, that the way the Marsha says, that he's doing it all for a good reason. The Amar of Kana Mishum Rabbi Akiva. So this is the same Rebbe. It's the same Rebbe Khan in the name of Rabbi Akiva. It seems a little unrelated, but be careful. But a little related. Be careful about the person who gives you advice, but really it's self-serving advice. So the Marsha says that that's this case. He's telling the daughter, "Hey, wait around. You'll get a big dowry. Let's hold off." But he's really doing it for self-serving because he wants around the house to take care of the domestic needs. Amar Rav Yud Amarav. So now we're going to end with some related agadikas. Amar Rav Yud Amarav. Hamasias pito lezakain. If somebody marries off his daughter to an older man, or an old man, I should say. Vamasi isha livno katan, or the flip, marries off his underage son to a woman who's already of age. V'machzir aveda lakuti, obviously it's a lagoy, and somebody returns an aveda to a non-Jew, to Gentile. In order, somebody's going to do this thing to add the sated to the thirsty. Lo yoveh Hashem sloch lo, God won't forgive him. So what does this mean? It's adding the sated to the thirsty. So Rashi says very appropriately, these are matches. We'll worry about the aveda in a minute. These are matches that one of them has sexual desire, thirsty, and the other is sated, doesn't have sexual desire. Either the old guy is sated because he's old in general, and also he's had it in his life, throughout his long life, but he's also no longer interested, or the young person who's not yet of the age. So they're the sated people, and you're matching them together with the woman who is thirsty, who has sexual desire. That is asking for trouble. The Marsha says a slight variation, because means that somebody who beforehand, the Ramban says this, it means that you beforehand, you weren't tempted, you had no interest in something, you were sated, as it were, but there you sort of forced yourself to be, or whatever, you put yourself in a situation where it creates a desire where there wasn't any. And this particularly in the case of like sexual desire. So the Marsha, so he says that this woman, maybe she was sated before she was being married off, right? She's only, anyway, if she, maybe she's a katana, maybe she's whatever. She's not necessarily sexually tempted. But then the father goes and he marries her to this old guy, and she actually is in some type of a context which now she's exposed to, sex and so on. But then it's not satisfying her, and then she's going to go and stray. So it turns a case that was sated, the woman was sated, not just the man, and it made her, and it tempted her, now made her sort of, sexually interest, have a sexual appetite. It awakened a sexual appetite. Okay, so that's that. By the way, also, Tosfos points out an interesting question about why is the case about the minor son, since when is there a rabbinic marriage for a minor son? and he's not really certain about that. And okay, so maybe it's that the guy married off his son underage, and it's not even really halachically recognized yet, not even rabbinically. And then it's very interesting. Well, would that be considered a type of a zinus, to be doing something in that type of a context, which in practical terms they're considered married, but halachically not? So Tosfos has that interesting question. As far as the issue about returning the lost object, right, I would sort of say, in terms of the idea of sated and hungry, thirsty, I would have said that, Rashi says what it means is, and I don't get the sated and thirsty metaphor here, that since you're returning a lost object to a non-Jew as well as to a Jew, it shows you're just doing it because you think it's the right thing, not because it's a mitzvah. So that's a problematic. And so I guess the sated and thirsty is, one case there's a mitzvah, one case there's not a mitzvah, which is very strange, because you would think that you would want to apply the implicit ethics and morality in the mitzvot, and certainly just look at Bein Adam L'Chavero mitzvahs also, to do it not just from the tzivoy perspective. Famous Rambam and Shimon Prakin, one could say that's why we don't make brachas before Bein Adam L'Chavero mitzvos. It's not just it doesn't get its significance just from the tzivoy perspective. I would have said that it's more perception that non-Jews have money and Jews don't have money. I guess the reverse of contemporary stereotypes, but in the place where where Chazal were living, the non-Jews were in control, and they had the control of the economy and so on. So why are you giving this thing to somebody who's already stated, if you don't have a halachic obligation, shouldn't we keep it for ourselves? We're thirsty, or something like that. Anyway, obviously that raises important questions about the whole morality of not returning lost objects to non-Jews and so on. Okay, we're going to bracket that for now. Let's keep on going. Maysvale asked you on this idea that you're not supposed to marry off your daughter, or you're not supposed to marry off your son when he's still a minor. So we say like this: if a man loves his wife as himself, and shows him more kavod, honor, than his own, then he shows himself honor. Here Rashi sort of says, buy nice clothes. I mean, honor, when we think about kibbud av v'em, right, is to sort of take care of their needs, feeding, clothing, doing everything that's attending to them. Okay, so that's as opposed to ava. One also wonders, by ava, do they mean the emotional ava? Do they mean more the way it expresses itself, like v'ahavta l'recha kamocha, do to them like you would do to yourself? Anyway, interesting phrase right there. Okay, you give hadracha, you put your kids on the straight and narrow, you bring them up and educate them in terms of proper behavior. And you marry them off near to their age of maturity. So here's the idea, right? You marry them off before they'll be tempted sexually. By the way, these are really raises, when we realize, according to, like nowadays, a major challenge people have is all the prohibitions around sex outside of marriage, especially if the woman is in need and so on. And the Isser Negia, even sexual touch. Anyway, for the rabbis, they solved it by marrying off the kids right before they got, bar and bat mitzvah. So therefore, before they were sexually tempted, they were already married off. So Allah v'kosvomer, regarding that, such a person, the verse says, V'yadata ki shalom ohalecha. You'll know your tent, meaning your wife and your kids, are all in peace. Everybody is taken care of. You will visit your tent. You will not sin. And they also presumably won't sin, your kids, etc. Anyway, so it says you're marrying off your son right before he's bar mitzvah, but we just said you're not supposed to marry off your son if he's underage. So the Gemara says, no. Near their age of maturity, like a few months before they get bar and bat mitzvah, that's okay. The problem is that doing it when they're still significantly young. All right, fine. So that's the idea. Don't marry off your daughter to an elderly man. Don't marry off your son, maybe even your daughter. Again, this is nisuin, not kiddushin. Kiddushin was done younger, before they are sexually mature. But once they're sexually mature, get them married off as quickly as possible so they're not tempted. Okay, or when they're about to be sexually mature. Tana Rabbanan. Somebody who loves his his neighbors, meaning build up a sense of community, and it brings it's a great phrase, mekareves krovav. They're already your relatives, but you bring them close. Because we all know people are not always close with their relatives. It's somebody who marries, that's probably why it's brought in, this issue about, getting married. And also we spoke about all the prohibitions of marrying daughter and stepdaughter. And here your dafka is supposed to marry your niece. your sister's daughter, and somebody who lends a coin to a poor person when he really needs it, and he's in pressure, and you come and you save him, because he didn't know where he was going to get the money he needed. I think they actually did a survey about, or whatever, like what would people do if they needed $300 for an emergency? Like, would they have someone to go to, some medical emergency or something? And like the percentage of Americans who said that they would not be able to get $300 if they needed for an emergency was like mind-boggling. I forget what it was, but it was very high. I don't know, 20%. I'm just making that number up. Anyway, it just says how much we don't often appreciate so many people are like living, hand to mouth. So anyway, so here, if you do any of those things, regarding him, the verse says, Az tikra v'Hashem ya'aneh, like we read just the other day on Yom Kippur. What does this have to do with Az tikra v'Hashem ya'aneh? So Rashi says, because right before that it said, Mi b'sarcha al tisalem, do not hide yourself from your flesh. And that's, of course, so here it's like marrying, your sister's daughter, that closeness of family, bringing your relatives close, even your neighbors, creating, that sense of those that are close to you, right? Not the standard, just universalist, where, everybody deserves equal sort of love and treatment. You can't love everybody equally, and the power of showing that to those that are close to you. And it also says, right, that when an ani, it speaks about paros lara ev lachmecha, give bread to the hungry one. So the end of it is Atz tikra v'Hashem yaneh. Okay, Tanu Rabbanan. Now, one last thing about the issue here about mother and about mother-in-law and grandmother-in-law and so on. It says Ba'ish yisrafu osov eshen, him and them. That's pshat, them. But who is the them? It's about a man with his wife and his wife's mother. Now, the pshat of the psukim is that you also the wife, but the Chazal do not understand it. You burn also the wife, but Chazal don't understand it that way because the wife was the heter, right? There's no issur for a man to be sleeping with his wife, even if he goes out and sleeps with his wife's mother. The prohibition, the transgression, was the wife's mother. The wife he didn't do anything wrong with. Why would you kill the wife? So the Gemara, so that creates this. So maybe the psukim, maybe in the pshat, I don't know. Means you're all doing it all at once or something. But anyway, but for Chazal, certainly the wife is out of the picture. So what's the esen in the plural? So osov, that's a chas mehen, him and one of them, Divrei Rabbi Yishmael, which seems not shot in the psukim. We'll see what the Gemara does with it in a minute. Rabbi Akiva Omer, osov es shteihen, both of them. Now what both of them? It obviously doesn't mean the wife. So let's take a look. My benayu, Amar Bai Mashmos Tor Shemika benayu. They're not really arguing halachically. They're just arguing what to do with the pasuk. Rabbi Shmuel Savar osov esen, osov efachas mehen. How does he get esen them to mean one of them? Shekein b'lashinivani karm la'achas hina. In Greek, they call one hina, which I assume is like one hin, same thing, because often the hay is is spelled with a hay and it's really without the whatever. So it seems like that's one. Okay, so that's how we read it. That's one of them. Okay, the aim chamos midrash asya. He would learn grandmother-in-law from the drasha, like we did earlier, learning it from the same way we went down, we went up, and so on. Rabbi Akiva Savar, no, osov esen, both of them, both of who? Not the wife and the mother-in-law, but the mother-in-law and the grandmother-in-law. Osov esen, so Rabbi, where were we? Osov esen, osov es shteihen, the aim chamos hacha ksiva. And that's, if you remember, we said that before. Rabbi Akiva, grandmother-in-law, is in the pasuk. So it says, if a man takes a woman and her daughter, it's talking about the grandmother-in-law and her daughter and the mother-in-law. So that's two prohibitions of wife's mother and wife's grandmother. Okay, but they're both being killed not because they were together and the problem was them being together, but because they're both mother or grandmother of the wife. Okay, and that's what he learns the esen, the plural. Not obviously everybody's clear the wife is out of it, and from him, grandmother-in-law is in the pasuk. Okay, the aim chamoso hachativ. Rav Amar chamoso lacher misa ika benai. No. There's a real significant halachic debate between them. What would be the story of mother-in-law after the wife is no longer around? After the wife is dead? Rabbi Shmuel savar chamoso lacher misa b'sreifa. It's birth. It's the same punishment because as achas mehen means. Even if only one of them is around, the wife isn't around anymore, it's still prohibited with the wife's mother. Which does not sound like it from the Pesukim, but okay. Rabbi Akiva Savar Isur Ba'alma. No, it means esen es shteihen, not that you burn the wife, but only when the wife is still around. Okay, but if the wife is not around, I assume the same would be true if you divorced her, then it would be prohibited. How prohibited rabbinically? Rashi says it's one of the arurs and so on, but it would not be a biblical violation of one of the arayot and would not be punishable by death and so on. That's a pretty big debate. Okay, that is the end of Sreifa. The case basically of variations of mother-in-law, mother-in-law, grandmother-in-law, daughter, granddaughter, and so on. Okay, we will end here for now and then continue with the next.